Let me introduce you to Bruno. Here you see one plant, but later, two plants. It's painful.
No, Bruno!
We killed Bruno. Today we're going to turn this kind of Charlie Brown looking succulent into not one, but two beautifully thriving plants. I'm going to show you the whole process start to finish, and yeah, it might look a little brutal, but that's just sometimes what you have to do to get a good result. This method of propagation that we're going to use is very simple, but very effective, and is actually used by a lot of growers. And by doing this, you're going to keep the parent plant looking really nice and also get more plants out of the deal. But first, a quick backstory on Bruno. Oh my gosh, look at that. This poor little guy.
Dude, he needs some room, dude. He's suffering.
He's suffering. He's struggling.
You think you can fix it for us, Rooted Theory?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's kind of got crushed a little bit from all the weather and like the fires that happened and like the trampling, but
Oh wow.
I mean, he's kicking. He's still good.
Yeah.
I water him every now and then, you know.
Soil actually looks like you guys potted him up pretty well. It's got perlite in there. There's some sand in there, so it looks like he's got good roots.
He's got good roots. That's important.
Yeah, but the pruning. Sorry, brother.
It's okay.
Sorry, man. We gotta work on that.
We gotta work on that. That's fine.
Our little friend Bruno here is an Aeonium, and when they're properly pruned, they can have multiple stems as well as multiple rosettes. And this creates a much more full and dramatic look, and that's what we want to do with Bruno. So there's nothing technically unhealthy about Bruno. The issue is in the pruning. Removing that main rosette when he was young would have resulted in multiple rosettes, creating that nice full look that is typically desired in Aeoniums. The first thing we want to do is cut the stem at the point where he should have been trimmed a long time ago. Not to harp on producer Jeff, he just didn't really know any better. Even though this is a little painful to watch, it has to happen. Then we're just going to cut off that middle part of the stem. Now, what do we do with Bruno's head? Well, this is actually going to get replanted into new soil. But first, it's imperative that we set him aside for a few days so the cut can callus over, kind of like a scraped knee creating a scab. Doing this will help prevent root rot when we go to pot him up later. So for now, let's set this guy aside. Now back to Bruno 1.0. We're going to carefully remove him from the pot and inspect the soil. All in all, the soil doesn't look half bad, but we're still going to give him nice new soil with some fresh nutrients, along with a little bigger home. The mix I'm using consists of potting soil, lots of perlite for good drainage, and a little bit of coffee grounds for some added nutrition. I'm setting in my first layer of mix, then compacting it a little bit at the bottom. And as we set Bruno 1.0 back in, we want to make sure we get the level just right. The top of the root ball should be slightly below the top of the pot. Now we can finish backfilling. Now, for even more aeration, I could add some crushed volcanic rock to the mix, but this is what I do with almost all of my fleshy succulents, and they're pretty happy. Now that Bruno is potted back up into his new home, we're pretty much just left with a 6-inch stem sticking up. Now, we can cut that a little bit lower if we wanted to, but I think this is a pretty good height for the new foliage to start sprouting. So now let's take the Brunos outside. It's helpful to remove some leaves off the rosette when placing them to dry. This will help preserve its energy and get ready to push out new roots. Then we want to thoroughly water Bruno 1.0. And I'm just going to leave him in a dappled light condition for a bit. But ultimately, Aeoniums can take full sun or partial shade. Now back to Bruno 2.0. Once he's calloused over and ready for planting, we're actually going to use his original pot. We're going to use more of that same potting mix, and then we're just going to stick the stem about 1.5 inches down. And after several weeks, he will develop some nice new roots. Now to speed up the process, we could use a rooting hormone, but in this case, I just did it al natural. Now let's just fast forward time a few weeks here, because I don't want you to miss the coolest part. Bruno's actually begun to push out nice new foliage in multiple locations around the top of the stem. This will create a nice multi-rosette head and give him just the look he's always dreamed about. And Bruno 2.0 seems to be settling in nicely. Now, we don't see too much new growth yet, and that's because all his energy is going into producing new roots at the moment. And after our little rescue operation here, Bruno gets to go back home with producer Jeff, and their worlds are complete again. Make sure to stay tuned because I will definitely be sending out Bruno updates. And if you haven't done so yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification so you don't miss the next video. I'll see you guys soon. Stay rooted.